morning. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Palo Alto. I'm Brian Weller. My pronouns are he and him, and you're all very welcome to be here. There are many announcements in your order of service, and it gives you a sense of the vitality of this place when you realize that Monday is gardening, Tuesday is brown books, Wednesday is by your side singers, Wednesday is sacred text reading group, Bridge Club, Saturday meditation is meeting on Saturday this week. There's more information if you wish to pursue that. I think you know that if you wanted to fill out a joy or concern, you would have written it up here before the service, and those of you at home, put it on the chat, and we'll try to decipher it later. Our guest speaker this morning is the Reverend Nancy Palmer Jones, whose pronouns are she and her. Reverend Nancy is co-author with Karen Lynn of a book, Mistakes and Miracles, Congregations on the Road to Multiculturalism. It was the UUA's common read in 2022 and 23. She's just completed a year as Director of Faith Leader, Organizing, and Formation with PACT, People Acting in Community Together. Is that San Jose? San Jose, Santa Clara County. From 2005 to 2022, she served as senior minister at the First Unitarian Church of San Jose. I'm sure many of you have been down there, and where she's now their minister emerita. We welcome Nancy. And I must say, working with Nancy, she's extremely enthusiastic and very efficient, which is a hell of a combination. We gather our different paths entwined to deepen our spiritual lives, nourishing connection, learning from each other, caring for each other, tending to our world. We gather on the unceded, stolen land of the Tamian and the Ramushtas people. We acknowledge these communities in the interest of truth and justice, awareness and gratitude, in order to dismantle the ongoing legacies of settler colonialism. We pledge to join them whenever they ask us for solidarity. Here in the main hall, masks are not required, but are strongly encouraged. We express our mutual respect by supporting each other's decisions. If you're here in person and have questions about our church or Unitarianism in general, meet at the welcome table after the church, and the gentleman named John Wright will assist you with anything you want to know. And you can even join the church today if you want to take that route. Now, let us begin our service.
Stephen, thank you. You are already tuning our ears to listening. It is such a joy to be with you all this morning, dear members, friends, and visitors to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Palo Alto, both online and here in person. These chalice lighting words are the words often spoken at the First Unitarian Universalist Church of Austin, Texas. Listen. This is the flame we hold in our hearts as we strive for justice for everyone. This is the light we shine upon systems of oppression until they are no more. This is the warmth that we share with one another as our struggle becomes our salvation.
The centering words today are in here. There we are. Written by Unitarian Universalist minister Jacob Trapp, no relation to the Austrians, which opens up today's theme, why do we listen? If it is language that makes us human, one half of language is to listen. Silence can exist without speech, but speech cannot exist without silence. Listen to the speech of others. Listen even more to their silence. To pray is to listen to the revelations of nature, to the meaning of events. To listen to music is also to listen to the silence and to find the stillness deepened and enriched. So let us listen to this centering music and its silences. Here is Cuando el Pobre, which we will sing later in the service.
And particularly flexible, or someone who wants to come over here, wants to join me on the story quilt, that's great. However, we'll all have equal access to this story because I asked my friends this past week, and this is one of the things that I'm learning about my Kindle, is it will click off if I don't keep my finger on it. So there we go. When I asked my friends this week if they know a really good story about listening, my friend, the Reverend Kimberly Debus, says, heck yes, I do. And I even have a video of this story. You want me to send it to you? To which, of course, I say, heck yes, I do. And then I watch it, and I fall in love with this story, too. Hello. It's about a whole bunch of folks who want to help their friend who is having a really, really hard time. And it's about the one friend who knows just what to do, who knows just what will help the most. So let us watch and listen to this story.
The Rabbit Listened by Corey Dorfeld. One day, Taylor decided to build something new, something special. Something amazing. Taylor was so proud. But then, out of nowhere, things came crashing down. The chicken was the first to notice. Cluck, cluck, what a shame. I'm sorry, so sorry this happened. Let's talk about it, cluck, cluck. But Taylor didn't feel like talking. So the chicken left. Next came the bear. How horrible! I bet you feel so angry. Let's shout about it. But Taylor didn't feel like shouting. So the bear left. The elephant knew just what to do. Trum-ta-da! I can fix this! We just need to remember exactly the way things were. But Taylor didn't feel like remembering. So the elephant also left. One by one they came. The hyena, let's laugh about it. The ostrich, let's hide and pretend nothing happened. The kangaroo, what a mess, let's throw it all away. And the snake, shh, let's go knock down someone else's. But Taylor didn't feel like doing anything with anybody. So eventually they all left until Taylor was alone. In the quiet, Taylor didn't even notice the rabbit. But it moved closer and closer until Taylor could feel its warm body. Together, they sat in silence until Taylor said, "Please, stay with me." The rabbit listened. The rabbit listened as Taylor talked. The rabbit listened as Taylor shouted. The rabbit listened as Taylor remembered and laughed. The rabbit listened to Taylor's plans to hide, to throw everything away, to ruin things for someone else. Through it all, the rabbit never left. And when the time was right, the rabbit listened to Taylor's plan to build again. "I can't wait," Taylor said. "It's going to be amazing."
What is the thing that the rabbit knows to do for their friend? Listen, that's right, listen. And that gives Taylor all this space to feel all their feelings and to come around to what Taylor really wants to do. Listening creates space with room enough for hurting people to move around in. So here's a song about asking for what we need when we're having a hard time. It's number 1012 in the Teal hymnal, "When I Am Frightened," by Shelley Jackson Denham, and we will sing just verse 1 and verse 3.
It's now time we turn our thoughts to the important events, ideas in our hearts and minds. There are, I think, Let's now take a few minutes of silent prayer or meditation to hold all that we have heard with compassion and care. Blessed be. Sometimes a sorrow weighing on our heart is one of our own actions or inactions. We are human. We strive and go astray. And then we can find joy in noticing these moments and with compassion for ourselves, gently leading ourselves back to how we want to be. Let's now, in silence again, recommit ourselves to that path. Oh, I can feel that commitment charging through the room here. It's beautiful. As always, we have help of companions on our path, just as Taylor in our story has helped the rabbit who knows how to listen. So let us, with our next hymn, recommit to creating a space where we may all find our way. Please join in singing When Our Heart is in a Holy Place, number 1008 in the Teal Hymnal. And of course, the words are on the screen. Mine was last week. I was in Rochester, Minnesota, a few thousand miles from here, and my heart was in a holy place. And it's because I went up there to visit my youngest daughter, who is in recovery and living in a sober house and doing very well, doing splendidly well. The reason for the visit that day was she signed the membership book at the Rochester Unitarian Universalist Church. Her sister and I were there weeping, and she's up there beaming because she knows she's in the right place. They're helping her. She's helping herself. It's a beautiful, beautiful thing. So after that ceremony, we went to lunch. The three of us sitting outdoors. And for the first time in 12 years, those two sisters were seated across from one another having a meal. One had been on the streets, drunk all that time, and the other carefully staying out of the way but helping any way she could, never, never, never assisting her to stay drunk. So I was trying to listen. I knew what this service was about, and I was trying to listen to the words, but I couldn't hear anything. It was like hummingbirds going like this. It was like I heard a Gershwin tune. You know, these two kids talking. And I heard like bees buzzing. It was startling. I mean, I could hear words, but what I was listening to was love. Was love. I hardly ever felt that way. Ever. Then you go out into the public. Rochester, as you might know, is home to the Mayo Clinic. Population there is 140,000. 50,000 work for the clinic. So when you're in that town, there's an aura. There's a mystery of some kind. It's like a healing. I'm sort of chatty and garrulous, and so I chat with people. And I met drivers, nurses, cancer specialists, janitors, all there for a reason. They all care about what's going on. Then I met dozens of people visiting their families who are at the clinic. They wear badges so you can identify them, and they didn't mind talking usually. So when you see them, it's serious. There's no coffee hour chat when you're talking to people like that. They're terrified. They're getting bad test results. They're getting discharged, healed. All these emotions are going on all around you. You can't go anywhere that you don't feel this. And I sometimes get that feeling here, but this was intense. I'm not sure what I wrote down here, but this is what I'm remembering. My ears and my mind and my heart were pummeled by the sincerity of everyone, not everyone, of course. Some guy tried to cut me off on the freeway. But you get a sense there that you're in a holy place. There's an absolute happy mist in the air. Nobody says, have a nice day. They say something serious. So I hope that experience helped me to listen more carefully with my ear, let it all sink in, not just the ear, but the judgment with comprehension and compassion. Thank you for listening.
Good morning. So when I learned sometime about a week ago what Reverend Nancy's service was going to be built around, I had a moment of shock and delight because my friend Mark Carlson, who's a composer, and I had just entered a songwriting competition that was sponsored by the San Francisco Gay Men's Chorus. And there were a couple of stipulations only for that project. It had to be holiday related because the prize was that the piece would be premiered at their holiday concert this December, but it had to be not religious in any way. And I thought, well, I'm a good Unitarian, that should be easy. So, so Mark and I were coming up with ideas for what we wanted to write about, and we started thinking, what's current in our hearts and our minds, and our thoughts turned to the racial justice issues that became so prominent during the pandemic, and a whole range of social justice issues, and we thought, what is most important in addressing those? And it turned out it's listening to people and trusting their stories and believing what they tell you. So we wrote a piece called Will You Listen? And so when I sent this to Nancy very excitedly, hey, guess what? She immediately wrote back and said, would you read the lyrics in the service? So here I am. So when I'm reading them, please keep in mind it's not a poem necessarily. It's meant to be set to music, so not meant to be shared this way exactly, but I hope you like it. Will you listen? The pies are all baked, the tree is trimmed, and family and friends on their way. And outside this door, the whole world beyond seems just a bit nicer, just a bit softer, just a bit kinder today. But we know that things are never equal. Some feast on riches, some on stones, and some have fought for a place at the feast until they are weary down to their bones. But we have the power to change things. We at the feast can open the door. The key is to listen to what others tell us, to hear and believe, to truly believe, to quiet our voices, then listen some more. Will you listen? Let their voices not be silenced. Will you listen? Let their lives not be erased. Take your place, make your stand, change the face of this land. You can do it if you listen. Will you listen? Will we listen to those around our table? Will we listen to all those who are not? If we're taught side by side to set differences aside, we can change lives if we listen. Will we listen? In winter's glow we gather, the holidays shine bright, and every person, everyone, deserves the same tonight. There is power in words. Others' stories arise like birds taking wing. Can you hear them? Will you listen? It can change everything. We are listening. We won't let their voice be silenced. We are listening. Their lives shall not be erased. Take your place. Make your stand. Change the face of this land. We can do it, for we're listening. We are listening. We believe. We are listening.
Will we listen? So what have we heard so far this morning? We've heard Jacob Trapp remind us that one half of language is listening, listening to the speech and to the silences of others. We've witnessed how the rabbit in our story for all ages knows just how to be and how to listen for the heartbroken tailor. First, that wonderful image, just being a warm body against the child's back. Then when that palpable warmth opens up something in Taylor, the rabbit just listens. And the just listening makes space for Taylor's big feelings to be expressed and to roll right on through. The listening makes space. I keep picturing here that listening is like an actual tool that a contractor would use in building a home, making sure that the inside is open, expansive, with room for all that we are. The rabbit's listening builds space for Taylor so that Taylor can regain their own strength and hope. And now Taylor can see that there's a path forward, even after a terrible disappointment. Now Taylor can make something new. When I am troubled, will you listen to me? We sing. Then I may learn to love as you do. Then I may learn to love. Why do we listen? Because listening can make space for the other person to feel, to grow strong, to begin anew, and to love. We've listened to each other's joys and sorrows, and we've found our hearts to be in a holy place. And then Brian's tender, broken, open-hearted stories about his recent trip to Rochester, Minnesota, they just expand that holy place, don't they? He listens as his daughters begin to reweave their lives and their love together right in front of him. He listens as person after person coming from or going to the Mayo Clinic speaks with a depth of vulnerability and authenticity that change him. He comes home wanting to live every day with more depth, with this kind of loving attentiveness. So why do we listen? Because when we listen, we may be the ones who are transformed. Okay, so all of this is what we've heard so far today. And to be frank, darlings, this is what we ministers usually call the pastoral part of a service. This is the part that tends to us personally and interpersonally. Listening changes us in pairs and in small groups. The pastoral part, is where we comfort the afflicted, where we help to heal our own tender, wounded hearts through listening. And it's important. Still, we just would not be true to our Unitarian Universalist selves if we didn't turn now to the prophetic. This is where we afflict the comfortable, where we turn from the deeply personal to the systemic, which, spoiler alert, really turns out to be deeply personal too. So thank you, Bruce, for offering us the wonderful surprise of your new song. What a beautiful, perfect bridge from this personal, individual frame to a wider, more embracing, and more troubled view. In the song, we feel the vast gulf between those inside and those outside. Some feast on riches, some on stones. This kind of world that we live in is not fair, not equitable. It doesn't make space for the full humanity of any of us, as it is right now, whether we're feasting on riches, choking on stones, or someplace in between. As long as there are voices unheard, as long as there are whole groups of people who are under real threat right now of being erased, as is happening in our queer communities, our disabled communities, our communities of color, as long as economic and environmental injustice are already and have been devastating the poorest, most at-risk communities. Well, none of us is really free until all of us are free, as Fannie Lou Hamer will not let us forget. But we have the power to change things, Bruce's song says. Who's the we in that sentence? We always have to ask that. Who's the we? We at the feast, the song answers. We allies and accomplices. We folks with any or several of the identities that get some advantage or privilege or access to decision-making power within these hierarchical social systems, within all the isms that shape and cramp us all. We can open the door, Bruce's song promises. And what's our stance as we open the door? The song tells us this too. Are we to be like saviors? Like we're the good ones? Like we're the only people with power in the room? No. The song says the key is to listen to what others tell us, to hear and believe, to truly believe, to quiet our voices and listen some more. So we allies and accomplices take part in this social revolution, both by actively showing up and leaning in, and by leaning back, by yielding our own chance to be heard. Dear ones, when I first became a Unitarian Universalist, it was back in 1997 at All Souls Unitarian Church in New York City. And I love the fact that this largely, but not exclusively ever, white congregation has a partner church that is almost all black. The Church of the Resurrection, which is a United Church of Christ Congregationalist church, is 3 long crosstown blocks and 40 of those shorter uptown blocks away from All Souls. It's a distance to cross when some of us All Souls folks volunteer at our partner church's after-school program, the Booker T. Washington Learning Center. And I want to walk that distance. I want to be part of bridging the gulf between the Upper East Side, where All Souls sits comfortably well endowed, and East Harlem, where the Church of the Resurrection is striving to stay afloat. I want to bring people together and create this gorgeous, multicultural, multiracial, meaning-making, building relationships group of human beings. Because ever since I was a child growing up in Texas, I've been seeking a way to heal my own soul wounds from the racial divisions I witnessed there. Maybe this is a way I can heal my young 40-something Unitarian Universalist self thinks. Maybe I can help to heal myself and help to heal others. In 1997, I am part of a writing and improv group filled with actors. I can imagine how some of our writing prompts could work beautifully to draw out the stories of this diverse group of adults. Now, mind you, in March or April of 1997, I'm not even a member of All Souls yet. But, you know, I've been showing up every week for a couple of months, so I schedule a time to see the senior minister, and I tell him my idea. He listens. And then, without offering a direct answer, he invites me to an upcoming meeting with the partner church leaders and some of the All Souls core volunteers that'll take place right there in his big fancy office. When this group gathers, we go around the circle sharing why we're each here and what we hope for in this partnership. I briefly sketch out my idea about the writing storytelling group. And then something, thank God, calls me to listen, to really listen. I hear the Reverend Leroy Rixey, Church of the Resurrection's pastor and the founder of Booker T. Learning Center, talk about the community's struggle with education. For many parents in that community, their own foreshortened education is a sensitive and painful subject. It is the legacy, really, of centuries of educational inequities and injustice. And it's tough now for their children to receive the support they need. The mission of Booker T. Washington Learning Center is to reverse that legacy. The focus is on the children and on their joyous, healthful growth. Listening that day, I experienced the first profound and necessary revolution in my journey toward becoming an anti-racist ally and accomplice. I learned that in this group, I need to lean back, to grow quiet, to see, hear, and feel how the space can open up for the brilliant and powerful voices of the impacted community. I need to listen and learn from those leaders, like the late beloved Reverend Leroy Rixey and others. I need to learn from them whether there is something I can actually bring to the work. And if so, how can I best show up in service to that larger mission? So this personal story starts to wake me up to why listening is always the first step, as well as the ongoing driving force in faith-based community organizing, which I've spent 18 years now engaged in with PACT, first as a community leader and then on staff. Really, listening is always the first step and the driving force in any effective movement for justice, equity, and compassion. It goes back, this prominence, this importance of listening comes back around to the one-to-one encounter, a bit like those we've been hearing about all morning. An organizer, like a member of the impacted community or a member of a partner congregation, invites someone whom they know or they don't at all to get together at a coffee shop or in a park or on the church patio. And this encounter has an explicit intention. It's an invitation to be fully human together. Yes, we both share our stories, and if we're the person who's done the inviting, we keep ourselves to talking, to filling that space for just 20% of the time. We listen, we really listen for 80%. We consciously shift the power through listening. This is whether we're someplace in this hierarchy of systems and isms that puts us in an advantaged place or whether we are on equal footing with the person that we are listening to. 20/80. You can imagine it's a challenge for me. And it's so important. We may ask questions like these. How are you and your people doing? What brings you to this church, to this town, to this work? What keeps you up at night? What in your family or in the community or in the world lies heaviest on your heart? What brings you hope? Tell me about that. And finally, would you be interested in getting together with other people who share some of these same heartaches and hopes to find out how we might make some changes? When we are the ones being listened to, I can testify, it has made me feel, and I pondered whether I wanted to use this phrase, but I can't come up with something equally good. It makes me feel like $1 million. It is so life-giving to be seen and heard. And when we are the ones listening, I know I always feel amazed, inspired, and flat out grateful for the strength and the beauty of this human being in front of me, this person who's still here as each of us is still here in spite of every obstacle. We laugh, we cry, we wonder together. At its best, this one-to-one in organizing is an I-thou experience, a connection that breaks through the walls that society tries to build between us. Once two human beings have shared that kind of connection, we will show up for each other. And this is where listening helps us to build power. I'm laying out a kind of map here without doing it tremendously explicitly, but these are the steps to making change. Because we keep widening the circle, each of us creating more and more one-to-ones, growing the numbers of who will show up for each other, who's engaged, who's actively embodying our faiths. Through this act of listening and building the numbers of connected, committed people, community leaders who may have never felt heard before, grow the certainty that their own, once silenced voices will be and must be heard. Heard by both allies with decision-making power who've been hungering for the backing that they can use for the good of all. So now they feel empowered too, as well as heard by those who stubbornly cling to power just for themselves and for the tiny few. They too now must listen if we hang in. The labor movements that we honor this weekend are built on this methodology of listening and then of uniting around what we share. So, from the deeply personal to the local neighborhood to the broadest societal scale, why do we listen? Because listening is at the root of all change. Listening creates and expands human beings' sense of belonging, which means really it creates and expands love and life. Whether we are in Rochester, Minnesota, being transformed personally as Brian was by all that we're listening to, or whether we are in East Harlem or East Palo Alto, participating in the transformation of a society too long divided by fear and hate. We, yes, you and I, in all our own diversities, can bring this spiritual practice of listening everywhere and anywhere. Like right here, in this hall, in these online spaces. Like right here, in this very room.
Isn't it wonderful to have the Palo Alto Tabernacle Choir back? We create this space together, not out of wood or glass, nor even out of electricity and binary signals, but out of our presence and our listening. Wherever we are today, kitchens, not bathroom, bedrooms, dens, we've chosen to be together, hoping that we can do much more to make our lives into all that we dream and make our world into the world we hope it to be. It's now time to collect the offering.
Thank you again. Dear ones, every word, every piece of music has really been about how we want to create the world that we dream about. So this closing hymn is one of my absolute favorites. It's Quando el Pobre, number 1027 in the teal hymnal. Veronica played it for us as the centering music, and Veronica, that tempo was perfect. I told Veronica that my own heartbeat moves pretty fast, and sometimes I think singing in Spanish requires a little extra space. We're going to sing just the first verse in Spanish, and then we'll sing verse 2, and then we sing the final verse as well. And all of those lyrics, of course, will be on the screen for you all. I invite you to rise in spirit and or in body as we join in singing Quando el Pobre, 1027 in the teal.
We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of this community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we're together here again.
Darlings, whether you are online or here in the main hall, please stay after this benediction for our conversation time. We all begin with greeting time, which is a chance to say hello to someone that maybe you've never met before or you haven't seen in a long time, especially. And if you're new, we are so eager to get to say hello. And now, if you're online, please do unmute yourself and turn on your video. And then I believe it probably looks like this. You're going to touch hands virtually. So moving your hands out to the sides of your little Zoom cube. While we say our benediction together here in the main hall, people are reaching out to hold hands. If you feel comfortable doing that, show you are connected in spirit. Cross your hands over your heart if that feels more comfortable to you. And let us say together, go out into the world in peace. Be of good courage. Hold fast to what is good. Return no one evil for evil. Strengthen the faint-hearted. Support the weak. Help the suffering. Rejoice in beauty. Speak love with word and deed. Honor all beings. Amen.
Well, hello. I've got